civilians. Do you know why they did that? They were trying to get a pay bonus. They were paid by the amount of people that get killed, rebels that get killed, so they found civilians on the street, took them out and shot them and pretended they were rebels so they could get their extra pay. That's the kind of people that the United States government is funding and arming and training and with the military aid programs. They say that Afghanistan is the longest war. Oh, that's not true. Colombia is the longest war of the United States. But the government is not really interested in you knowing about that war. It's a different kind of war because it doesn't involve direct fighting of the U.S. armed forces fighting against the Colombian peasants. Instead, they have hired killers from Colombia who do the fighting for them. They have 300 U.S. military advisors in Colombia at any one time.
We can't have true social justice reform until we have cannabis reform also.
So what's your name, man?
Jeremiah.
Who are you with out here with?
I'm here with the People's Movement of Milwaukee.
So you mentioned like defunding the police. What would you say to people who say, will defunding the police really help? Like, shouldn't we have more money towards better training for police officers?
No, the police officers already have the budget for training and diversity training and stuff like that, and the training, obviously it doesn't work. When we say defunding the police and why it will be better is because it'll help the community, especially inner cities. For example, taking some of that money out of the budget and investing it into community centers, recreational centers for children, for them to do better activities, putting mental health like specialists out on the street. So when somebody calls the police, with somebody having a manic episode, police don't have to show up with guns drawn because they're not trained to handle situations like that. Or somebody who's like schizophrenic or bipolar and stuff like that. So we need to put more resources out into different resources that help aid the police. So when we say defund the police, we're not talking about just taking the money. We're talking about taking the money and putting it into different resources.
I personally know a lot of social workers who depend a lot on the police. I know a social worker who, on one of her regular visits, got assaulted by a woman in a home. She does not want to see police defunded because she relies on them. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those social workers?
There are societies that exist without police presence at all, and those seem to work perfectly fine. The thing is that us Americans, we become so desensitized to a police system and a police infrastructure, is that we constantly dwell upon that, and we think that that's our only form of help. There are other ways of different protection, like community policing. Hiring people in your neighborhood and coming up with a security system or a safety system to do lawful arrests and stuff like that as well too.
Wouldn't at some point those community police become just as corrupt as the other police, and wouldn't they have less training?
No, because it'll be powered by the people. The people have the absolute say-so who they want and who they don't want to be police in communities.
Okay, what would you say about situations like Chad's, where they didn't have police for 3 weeks, and you ended up with 2 shootings, you had people removing evidence from scenes, you had rapes, and you had a class action lawsuit against the city? That's a situation where the police were removed from the 6-block radius, and it went to hell. How would you prevent that from happening?
So the way how you can prevent it, again, we have to put in different infrastructures of the way we see police. Had they put a system into place where they came up with a solution to where we have a task force dedicated to stopping crime rather than police, that's a system that's based on capitalism. We have to make sure that we put people in power, and that's involved in inner cities, that comes from inner cities, that know how to neighborhood cities and communicate with better people. So when stuff like that happens, when police are taken out of context, of course crime rate is going to skyrocket because they think it's all free will. The thing is about when we say defund the police, we're not talking about like, hey, all law is all law, we're above the law. That's not the thing at all. When defund the police means we're taking direct from their budget and putting it into different resources to help. Now, had they took the police out and put a different resource in and help fund a community task force, then it completely would have been avoided.
So are you for disbanding police forces in cities entirely?
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't think that? Are you for immediate disbanding? Do you not? How would you deal with the power vacuum that comes in?
I feel like you have to retract it by percentages. You have to start retracting it by percentages and slowly implement a new system. So that way, when that system fades out, the new system is into place. And we have to make sure it doesn't coincide with the way things used to be done before with police in neighborhoods and the things that are being done now the way police in neighborhoods.
So you're not for immediate disbanding of police?
No, absolutely not. I'm for slowly retracting it. Over time, I know things can't magically happen overnight. I know that's nearly impossible. Again, we have to make sure that we're putting the right systems into place.
So if you're slowly removing the old police officers, aren't they going to be disincentivized to do anything? And aren't you going to see crime increase in the interim before your new police force comes in?
No, absolutely not. This is coming from somebody I'm from the inner city, so I've been exposed to crime pretty much all my life. The thing is that people trust their neighbors and people trust the people that they grow up and be around. Police officers come into inner cities not knowing anything about the neighborhood, being fearful of people of color, and of course they're going to have this mindset of this lawful and like powerful, or I'm authority, respect my authority type of mindset. Whereas you're more comfortable enough being arrested or being arrested or being justified of an arrest from somebody in your community.
People speaking out and acting out with aggression towards buildings and whatever I don't consider to be violence. You can't be violent towards an inanimate object.
Not everybody who shows up at a Black Lives Matter protest is a part of Black Lives Matter movement. We have people who come into my protests and stuff like that all the time who are either ACAB or anarchists or X, Y, and Z. They come out here and they take advantage of a peaceful protest. The people who go out and destroy property I can promise you are not attached to Black Lives Matter. And those people don't stand for anything. Like, I'm not for destroying and burning down a community.
There is a small business, a 7-Eleven owner, who restocked the store after the May riots, and he put his life savings into it, and it got broken into again. He can't afford insurance, and he's out of business. He's an immigrant. What do you think about him?
Start a GoFundMe page and ask social media for help.
Do you think that justifies the looting?
I think that the police should be prosecuted for the crimes that they commit, and maybe the people wouldn't be out protesting and rioting.
Do you think that, but does that justify, should they be looting as well?
No, I don't think they should be looting as well, but I understand their frustration and I understand their economic disadvantage.
Defund the military! 50% minimum!
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate Joe has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate Joe has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate Joe has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate Joe